Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Linden, founder and CEO of IFT. Excited for you all to join us for another edition of our recurring Ask Me Anythings with only a few days left to go with our initial Set Your Own Price Pro offer. This is kind of a special Pro edition. Got a few different things to cover off right up front. But if you want to start typing in questions, go ahead. We'll make sure and get to those quickly. So right out of the gate, we're incredibly excited by the response that we've seen from Pro so far. We launched back in early September with an initial set your own price offer for existing users. We've now seen over 140,000 individuals upgrade to Pro. We couldn't be more excited. And the whole reason behind Pro is you, the end users, the people that have used it over the years and are looking to do something above and beyond what's just regularly available via published applets. So we're thrilled at the response. We're thrilled that we're now able to bring a whole lot more people and resources to bear on building features just for you. And with that in mind, we've already made a number of adjustments and additions to both what's available to everybody and also for pros. A handful of those things. One of them is the ability to use the Maker webhook service as a query, which really opens up really kind of infinite possibilities. Any type of API endpoint you can build can now be used as a webhook query. We increased some of the rate limits that some of the social networks have imposed, namely things like Twitter rate limits from 25 to 50 a day for pros. We have other limits that we're increasing as well to things like file size uploads and things like that, all in the name of giving pros more power and more control. And we're just, I think, about a week or two away from adding multiple of the same types of actions to use in an applet. So if you want to have two, Philips Hue turn on light actions in the same applet, that's going to be available shortly. And we've got a whole lot more coming soon, including in-app payments, annual plans, so on and so forth. Quick reminder, we've only got a handful of days left for folks to upgrade and take advantage of the set your own price offer that starts at a minimum of $199 a month and goes up to really whatever you think is worth paying for IFT Pro. And we're honoring that price if you get in now forever, and we're gonna hold ourselves to that. And I think that's something we really want to make sure is clear to everybody who worked with IFT or used IFT over the years, that we want to make sure and honor that as long as we're around and building cool stuff. So the set your own price offer ends October 31st. And then starting that first day of November, the price will switch to $399 per month. We talked about also adding some annual plan options, things like in-app payments. And we'll begin probably that first week of November, what we call the auto archive process. So for those that haven't upgraded, that have more than 3 applets that they've created themselves, you'll start to get an email and a heads up about which of those applets are going to be archived, with some potential opportunities to continue to upgrade and keep those. And if you don't upgrade to Pro and your applets get archived, it's not the end of the world. We have launched the initial version of our kind of archive management tool. So it should be just 1 or 2 clicks once you upgrade to Pro to bring any applets that have been archived back online and back into your kind of personal inventory. We also did another survey to I think all users, including pros, in terms of what they'd like to see next. And overwhelmingly, far and away, the number one request was an easy way to see a service's available triggers, actions, and queries without having to connect that service or without having to kind of use the applet creator tool to actually figure out what's available and what you can do with each service. So that's something we're looking to bring back. We used to have something like that in the past. It's a really kind of obvious and I think painful gap for folks to not have an easy way to kind of figure out what they can do with services that they may not even have yet, as a way to explore what's possible with it. So that's coming. We also saw a lot of folks request additional pro tutorials. We've had some great videos done by our product leader, Jeff, over the last month or so. So doing more of those soon. And also some of the other things in that kind of top group of requests were the ability to edit filter code in the mobile app, something that wasn't available right out of the gate. And also just better ways to kind of debug both filter code and what happened, things that happen in the activity log when applets maybe don't behave as expected or run into some problems. So with that, excited to have everybody here. We'll open it up and start answering questions. So fire away, and I'll just start with the first one. Not a question from Vikram, says, if rocks, thank you. Swarnam says, if be like a pro, love it. Let's do it. Your name is not this. Okay. We got an early candidate for best username. Said you waited 8 hours for this. Hopefully you've at least drank some water and weren't just sitting around. Got up and stretched a little bit, but glad you're with us. Patrick DRD is asking, where is PayPal? So we don't have official PayPal integration yet. The next thing we want to do is, in-app payments and annual plans. But if you do want to pay with PayPal, we have an article or a page in our help center that gives you a quick form to fill out, and then we can manually process that payment for you ahead of having kind of an official native PayPal integration. So we do have PayPal options available, and either in the chat or if you ping me on Twitter at @LTivets on Twitter, I'll send you that link to the article and we'll get you signed up. Let's see. Vikram is wanted to know if the $199 per year developer plan is currently only or there in the future too. I'm not sure I quite understand the question. So if you want to clarify more, but I'll take a stab at it. So our developer plan is meant for either individuals or companies that have some type of service or product that they want to add to IFT. And that's just a flat $199 a year cost. Usually, for us, that helps cover some of the review and some of the support things that we do. But you can add a service to IFT if you own that service or if you work at that company, and you can have as many users as you want, millions of users. There's no limit to the number of users that can then take advantage of that service. And that's something that, we've really finely tuned over the years. And so it should be really easy. We've seen some people build a service from start to finish in a matter of 1 or 2 days. So it's really not that high overhead, especially if you already have an API associated with that service. So that'll always be there. There'll always be an initial developer plan. So if that's not your question, Vikram, happy to answer that later on. Franco is asking, as a new pro user, you would like to know if the promotional plan would apply again if you cancel now and renew later on. Okay, this is a very common question we get. So because of the special nature of the set your own price and the fact that it's a lower price than what is going to be that base price going forward, $399 a month starting in November, we're not able to honor folks that cancel and then renew later on. That said, hopefully we'll have some easy ways for people to modify their plan or change their plan. But that base price going forward is going to be $399, and you'll always be able to cancel and then pick up again where you left off with that new kind of base price plan. Because of the special nature and that kind of initial offer of set your own price, it's not something that we can carry forward if you do decide to cancel. That said, as long as you maintain that subscription, we're going to honor that price and we're not going to change that for you if you got in this initial offer period. Let's see. Rajirmaran.com is saying, is asking, you've emailed support with your PayPal issue Can I spur the process? That should happen within days, if not hours. Hit me up on Twitter again if I can actually dig in and see if there's something else that's holding that up. Sorry that you haven't been able to get through there. And even for folks, if you do want to pay with PayPal, or if you're having some other problem getting a payment through, we've really seen those minimize over the week since we launched Pro initially, but they still exist. A handful of folks out there. We're going to do whatever we can to make sure we can get you in at the set your own price offer, even if it takes a couple days after that offer period expires. So if you let us know now that you're having a problem or you want to pay with PayPal, we're going to get you in and make sure and honor that. Let's see. Your name is not this. Still the winner for best username. I was wondering if it's possible to cancel a free trial. I'm not quite sure what free trial you're referring to. So we have a what we call kind of the free user plan, where you can create up to 3 of your own applets or turn on an unlimited number of published applets. So it's really quite powerful, and we suspect that 90% of our users are going to stay on that free plan forever. But that's not a trial. That's just the free plan, as if you're a free user on Instagram or Twitter, and that's not going anywhere. So no need to think about canceling that. The only thing that you might think of canceling is something that you're actually paying for. So we don't have a free trial as such as it pertains to end users. But perhaps that's not your question. Feel free to clarify, and I'll answer here later on. Fernando is asking, are basically saying that some services are failing to do what the applet is asking them to do. Smart Life is one of them. So if you have specific issues, I'm happy to tackle. I'll respond to everybody, or at least we'll try to respond to everybody that hits me up on Twitter. If you're a pro user, we actually have a support team. We've now added 2 more people to that support team to make sure we can get back to people much faster. But you can log into if.com and you'll see like a little help icon there in the bottom right. You can click that and ping some kind of problem that you're having to us, and you'll have somebody on our team take a look and get back to you with hopefully within a matter of hours or days. Let's see. Tom is asking, can I stack services in the order of most used? So I think I have a pretty good handle on that. One of the things we've seen over the years is that the services that don't involve some type of initial hardware purchase, Facebook, Twitter, Dropbox, and are free or offer a very substantial free plan, like a Twitter or an Instagram, are often the most used because they're just the most number of people using those services, and there's the lowest initial barrier to entry for those services. Alongside those, things like email, push notifications, location, weather are also kind of in that top 10 group with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. But we've seen a whole lot of usage actually out of some of the voice assistants. So Google and Alexa are probably, if not in the top 10, are very close to it. So that's kind of a rough sense of what some of the most used services are. That said, we have services that are in the top 20, top 30 used services that still have hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of users. Just because of the nature, you've got almost now 24 million users on the IF platform. That number continues to grow. And so over time, there's just a whole lot of people that use a whole lot of different types of services. And that is really the reason that IF exists. If we all use the same calendar, all use the same email, all use the same connected doorbell, there wouldn't be as big of a problem for us to solve in helping people connect the dots between all those different and unique services. Massimo is asking, why not add more if conditions or and instead of just the query and filters? The latter are difficult to get for average users, and the syntax is not properly documented. I think you're exactly right. We've got a lot of work to do there. The first thing we're doing is just making sure that syntax is easy to find, and make sure that documentation is really clear. We have documentation and it's up to date, but it's not readily available and easy to navigate to. So that's really one of the easiest things we can do, in addition to making sure that ability to edit filter code that you've created is available in all the different platforms. I mentioned the mobile apps don't yet have the ability to edit filter code in a really user-friendly way yet. So those things are coming. I've also just reviewed a handful of days ago some early designs for what we're calling kind of the filter UI. So think of it as a very simple, kind of fields and forms, drop downs and buttons to help create the same types of filter code that you would otherwise have to type out. So that's something that's in progress, and it should actually open up the power of filter and query to really everybody that's able to fill out a form and click buttons. So that's in progress, and I think it's a really good point. We decided that launching initially with filter implemented as JavaScript would actually allow for the widest possible range of use cases, and would also allow us to kind of figure out, okay, what are the very common things that people are doing with queries and filter that then we can then add a much more polished and user-friendly UI on top of that, and then have that UI essentially generate that filter code behind the scenes. So that's how we're looking to approach it, and we've already learned a whole lot. I think we've had tens of thousands we're almost approaching hundreds of thousands of applets now created with filter code. So we've learned a whole lot about what people are trying to do and the problems they're trying to solve. So Hanu is asking, how about if this or this within a certain time, then that. So that way it would run twice if both happen. So yeah, that's a very interesting idea. I think one of the biggest challenges for us there is that triggers are events that happen in sequential order. And so like if one trigger happened and we needed to wait around for another trigger to happen, it may not be as intuitive as, a simple kind of and statement that would combine, two different true or false scenarios together, because it's an event stream. And that's why filter and query were really kind of the paradigm that we look to accomplish a lot of that similar kind of and or conditional functionality with. That said, we've also got a lot of requests for things like time delays and actions. So a trigger happens, maybe you actually even bring in a query and do some kind of conditional filtering on it, but then you don't want the action to run for a certain number of minutes or hours. And that's something that we're looking to actually solve natively. So in terms of that time delay on the action side, that's also been something that we've looked at and seen a number of requests for as well. See, Swarnum is asking, you're not able to connect Domino's applet. Again, hit me up on Twitter or ping the pro support folks, and we'll take a look at that. We've had tens of thousands of folks use Domino applets in the past. And I haven't seen any kind of broad problems with that service, but that doesn't mean there isn't a problem that we can help solve for you. So Franco is asking, you would like to know if the 3 free custom applet limit goes for the IF platform too. Pardon me. So the 3 custom or self-created applet limit only applies to individual users. The way that things work on the platform and with developers is that the platform is now primarily, if not exclusively, for developers that are building services. As an end user, you can still access the platform. You can actually still publish applets. That's, in fact, the only way you can publish applets today. But we're actually bringing that ability to publish applets out of the platform for end users and into the regular user experience. That way, there's really kind of a clear separation. If you're a developer building services, you're using the platform. If you're just an end user looking to publish applets, you're using IFT and the IFT mobile apps. And there's no limitation, for developers at the developer plan level. You can create a service, have unlimited users use that service. Those users can create or publish unlimited number of applets, but you can't publish an applet as a brand on the developer plan until you upgrade to the team plan. And then you can also take advantage of things like what we call Connect, which are the embedded applets inside your own user experiences. So we're really looking to make the platform exclusively for the brands and businesses and the developers at those brands and businesses, and the end user experiences should handle everything for end users. So there'll be a very clear separation going forward. Yeah, so Franco, you're also asking, where is Filter? So if you are a pro, if you've upgraded to pro, and you go to create an applet on the website especially, but it also shows up in the mobile apps, you're just not able to do it yet. That's a problem we're looking to fix. You should see an option once you choose a trigger to either add a query or add filter. If you're not seeing that, which would be very surprising. We haven't had anybody that hasn't seen that once they go there. Please let me know, and we'll take a look and see what's going wrong. But like I said, I think we've now had over 100,000 applets created using Filter. So people have been able to find it, and they're using it for all kinds of different things. We want to make sure that's easy to find. So let me know if you don't see it. Yeah, so Frederick, you're asking, do we intend to improve Spotify integration to use the Spotify track URI so the proper release is found? I'm not familiar with the Spotify track URI and how that relates to the proper release or not. But again, give me some more info on Twitter. And if it's really easy to add, if it's just a matter of adding a new ingredient to Spotify, that should be really easy to do. I'll make sure and create a ticket for our team, and we'll tackle that. If it's more complex, if there's something else involved that I'm not aware of, it might be a little bit trickier. But it sounds like it might be easy if I'm to make a guess about it right now. So I am Jeff Cohen. Any progress on integration with iOS shortcuts? So the challenge with iOS shortcuts is it's really up to them and their team to either take on that integration, sign up as a developer, or to work with us with an API that we can use to help them build that service. So if you want to see shortcuts, I'd recommend either, kind of hard to tell Apple to do something, but I do know that shortcut team was part of a company that was acquired into Apple 2 or 3 years ago. So if you can find those folks, find them on Twitter, let them know. We'd love to work with them. And I totally hear you and agree that there'd be some really cool things you could do with kind of a fully native shortcuts integration on IFT. So Arya is asking, on the pro version, can you get any technical help? Yes, that is why we're staffing up and hiring on our community support team, is because we want to make sure and offer a level of customer support for pros that is above and beyond anything we've offered in the past, either for users or services. We want to make sure we're getting, we want to get down to less than 24 hours in terms of response, and even less than 3 or 4 hours as that team grows. And we'll take a stab at least at answering any question, no matter how technical. And that's part of who we're looking to hire on the community support team, are folks that are technical enough to help people answer even some of the hardest questions. Fernando is asking, why can't you use Alexa as an action on IFT? That's a good question. Again, I would, because Alexa owns their service, I would let the Alexa team know, either in their support forums or on Twitter, that you want to see that. I would even love to see that myself. I think there's some really cool things just in terms of notifications. Somebody rings their doorbell or you get a really important email. There could be some really, really cool use cases there. And I actually think that might be something that the Alexa folks have added over time, but I'm not quite sure how they've approached, sending some type of notification to Alexa with third-party developers, other services or partners like IFT. But would love to see that, and I recommend you let the Alexa folks know. Let's see. So Hexen, what happens if your card gets declined during your Pro renewal date? So we actually, for the vast majority, if not all of the credit card processing that we do outside of some of this, PayPal stuff that I guess you wouldn't say that that's credit card necessarily. We use Stripe. And so they have some really great ways to both retry and even kind of make sure they're retrying at appropriate times. And I could be wrong on this, but I believe that we actually retry up to 4 times. And after that first failure, we actually send a user a notification, an email that says, hey, there was a problem. And so you'll have an opportunity to either add a new credit card or figure out what's going wrong there. And we've seen, a very small percentage of failures, especially after it goes all the way through that 3 or 4 retries. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And sometimes you get a new credit card with a new number and you've got to update. It's a huge hassle. We all have to do it. And so there's all kinds of reasons why that might not go through. But you should get ample opportunity and heads up if there is a problem. Frederick, what about Bixby integration? Again, would love to see Bixby on the platform. I know that the Samsung strategy around Bixby has evolved quite a bit. They're doing a lot more with Google Assistant and Alexa, and so it's not clear to me how central Bixby is into their overall strategy and how much they're developing and supporting that. But again, if you can find either the Bixby team or some type of support forum around Bixby, let them know that they should be on IFT. Would love to work with them. And I think there's all kinds of cool things that we could help them do if they jumped on board. So Gary, you're saying you're having some issues with some applets that work with new Pro features. So our support options, if you log into if.com, the easiest way to get in touch with support if you're a Pro, log into if.com in a web browser, and in the bottom right, you should see a little black button that says help and has a question mark. And so that's, it's not quite live chat yet. We're not there, but you can click that help and you'll send a ticket into our community support team. And they should get back to you. I think right now we're somewhere around a day or 2, and that's coming down rapidly. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were like 3 or 4 days, and that was really painful. I really felt for a lot of folks that were frustrated, and rightly so, with that delay. But like I said, we've already hired 2 new folks on that team, and we're getting a lot faster at getting back to you. And that you should hear back from them over email very quickly. And if you're either not able to get the support you need there, or you've got some other issue, I'm also happy to take those issues on Twitter. Sometimes that results in just me going to the support team and saying, hey, someone's having a problem. But don't hesitate to reach out about anything on Twitter. I'm at LTibbets on Twitter. Let's see. So Anderson is asking, why not still allow free members to use infinite applets and keep all the other current upgrades for IFT Pro? Yeah, so that it's one of the things that we really struggled with as we planned for what Pro was going to look like. And it's one of the things that I think over time we've gained more confidence that the way that we kind of slice and dice things, allowing people to use unlimited published applets for free, but only create up to 3 of their own custom applets was the right call. And now we still have a lot of work to do there to make it easier for people to both find published applets and easier for people to publish applets themselves, whether they're free or Pro. And we acknowledge that there's a lot of missing gaps in terms of what's available for published applets. I think we're just under 300,000 total published applets. So there's a huge number of published applets available. But when you think about the thousands of triggers and thousands of actions, and the fact that you can have really kind of a near infinite way to combine those, there's just, there's almost too much ground to cover. That said, it now makes it a lot more, I think, interesting for brands themselves to try to cover those bases. So one of the things we're doing is trying to get the brands and services on the platform to a place where they're much more informed about what their users are creating with their service, and to help them kind of fill in those gaps with published applets that then all users, whether they're free or pro, can take advantage of. And I know that's going to take time, but I hope in just a matter of 2 or 3 months, you'll start to see a real difference, not only in the quantity and quality of published applets available, but also just the ability to explore and discover and search for those applets as a user. So Hexen, you're asking, will Apple shortcuts be available? I did cover that earlier. So we post the kind of the rewind view of this. We'll get the full answer. Short answer is, would love to work with them. It's up to them. You should let them know to get on board the IF developer plan. So Rick, you're maybe not asking a question that you understand that sometimes business plans don't always work one way or the other, but you're disappointed that Name Your Price has a $199 minimum. And yeah, again, our intention, with Name Your Price, we didn't want to mislead anybody. We tried to be really clear that there was a minimum there, and we also felt that the monthly price, that base monthly price, was going to be substantially higher than $199. In this case, we've kind of learned through the set your own price process that $399 is probably the right sweet spot initially for folks going forward. So we still felt like there was a very kind of compelling deal there, even with that minimum set. So again, we want to make sure we're being above board and not being sneaky. But we felt it was the right thing to do to have this minimum. And there's also, again, this isn't the reason why we did it, or at least the number one reason, but there are also some technical constraints involved. I think for us to be able to process credit cards, there is a real minimum there for that to make sense. Imagine processing a bunch of 5-cent transactions every month. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, happy to answer more questions there, and always open to hear feedback and how people think about how we evolve this plan as we move from set your own price to singular base price. David Patrick is asking, when will you remove trigger under Alexa IFT? I'm not sure what you're asking there. Alexa right now, I believe, only has triggers. And I think they have a couple different versions of triggers, like, kind of setting, when an alarm goes off or when you add a new to-do item. Far and away the most used is when you say a phrase, hey, Alexa, turn on the lights, or hey, Alexa, start a timer or something like that. But we don't have Alexa actions yet. The notification received from a specific app trigger under the Android device applet. This is a question from CJ, pardon me, has been reported not working. Can we get this fixed? That's actually, I apologize. It's the first I've heard of that being a specific issue. I will make sure and make sure our team is aware of that. If you wouldn't mind, CJ, if you could send me either a picture of an applet activity log or the applet ID, or both, on Twitter. That'll help us expedite actually getting to the bottom of what's going wrong there. But yeah, we want to make sure that that's working. And we do have all kinds of monitoring set up. So if there is some kind of systematic or broad or general problem with any trigger or action, we're usually pretty quick to respond to that. So maybe this is something that's unique to you, but it could also be a general problem that has slipped through some of that alerting that we've got set up. Let's see. Fernando is asking, is there going to be an if tool to manage or change data between services? Not only filters, but extracting patterns. I'd love to learn more about that. It sounds like there could be something really interesting there. But in terms of like what you mean by managing or changing data between services, I know I'm not interpreting this correctly, but I would kind of say that that's exactly what applets do. They take data from a trigger or an optional query, and they move that data, quote unquote. They post a tweet or they say something to Dropbox via an action. So almost every applet is moving or exchanging data, but I may not be interpreting that question the way you intended it to be. So let me know. Voldemir is asking, would it be possible to add more than one action from the same service? Yes. So you might have missed it right at the start, Voldemir, but we are working on that right now because there's some client limitations. We need to get some of these things in the next iOS and Android app updates. The current ETA for that is mid-November, but we have a team working on that right now. And it's one of the kind of clear things that we heard right after launch. We knew going into it that this was kind of a gap that needed to be filled, but it seems like there's a whole lot of use cases out there for folks looking to add the same action 2 or more times. So that's coming soon. Massimo, thanks for answering, but you were suggesting the possibility to use multiple conditions in and or instead of just one. Got it. Multiple conditions. Yes, the way we look at it is that pretty much anything that you would call conditional and or is possible with queries and filter code. And so the basic structure is a single trigger, some event happens, so the example I often use is, someone rings your doorbell. You can have one or more queries. So you can query to say, what's the most recent file I uploaded to Dropbox, or what's the temperature in my zip code, or is my current location in a certain place. I don't know if the location one's available yet, but the example is still very valid. And you can bring all of the data, both from the trigger and the queries, and we call data ingredients specifically, and you can bring that into the filter code section, and then you can do as much conditional kind of operations as you want. So you could say, if somebody rings my doorbell and it's raining outside and my current location is, not at home, then do a certain thing, play a message or send me some type of notification, or do nothing, skip and, don't do any of the actions at all. So anything you can dream up with conditionals should be possible. That said, we also need to make sure that the filter functionality isn't just for folks that can write a little bit of JavaScript. And we're working on that as well to make filter something that's as easy as choosing and filling out, a trigger or action on the platform. Yeah, so, okay, sorry, I missed one. David, will Alexa routine be available in IFTTT? So routines are separate from IFTTT. That said, there could be all kinds of ways that Alexa could plug routines into IFTTT. I think that the fastest way to get them to move on that is to make it really clear that you want to see that from Alexa. So either in their support forums or on Twitter or anywhere else that they're listening to user feedback, let them know what you want to see and why. They've made a number of updates to their service over the years. So it is definitely possible. Let them know. So Frederick is asking, how can you connect an applet created by another user and modify it for your own use? So yeah, this is actually something we're working on as well. And it goes beyond just modifying applets that have been published. But one of the big missing features for pros today is if you create a new applet from scratch, if this and that, you can use things like queries and filter, and there's even some ways to kind of swap back and forth between the trigger that you initially chose and you want to choose a different one. And these are all things that we're looking to bring into the applet settings pages. So for applets, say you created an applet 3 years ago, and you want to change the trigger or add filter or queries, you should be able to do that without having to start over again from scratch. And as part of that, that then makes it a lot easier for us once you use an applet that's somebody else has published. If they didn't make the fields available that you want to change for you to basically take that published applet and then convert it into an applet that you created yourself and then modify it from there and extend it. So that'll be something that kind of comes along with bringing a lot of those pro features that are currently only available when you initially create an applet into the applet settings page for both your own applets and for published applets as well. So that's coming. I can't say when that's coming. You know, first we want to bring all those features into the settings page, but also bringing published applets into your own created applets and giving you all that same control should follow shortly thereafter. Oh, Tyler Durden. Okay, you might be the new winner in terms of username. Tyler, good to see you. As an early user of IFT, you've seen a fantastic evolution of IFT, and you've helped where possible to contribute to the thousands of recipes. Oh, well, it sounds more of a statement. I was waiting for the question there, Tyler. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being with us all these years. You know, we've done some great things. We've also made some mistakes. But at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, building trust when we make mistakes or we change direction. Know that it's always coming from a good place. We genuinely care about the end users and the businesses that use IFT, and we're trying to do the best we can to do right by everybody. And again, that's kind of why it is why we're doing Pro, even though for some folks it's painful to hear that, you know, something that was free is now something they have to pay for, but it allows us to invest specifically in features and support for those users outside of how our business works with the brands and services. So appreciate it, Tyler. Patrick, oh, you sent a message to me on Twitter. Great, you'll hear back from me later today. Manu, you're saying we're going to honor free forever. That didn't happen. So you know. I don't want to give you some kind of evasive answer here. You know, in our mind, IFT is still free. You can still do so much with IFT. You can use unlimited published applets and acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do to make sure there's a lot more published applets available. But we would say that IFT is still very much free. And the Pro plan isn't a hard conversion where, you know, we never in our wildest dreams thought it would be appropriate to convert all 24 million users to some paying plan. There's still a substantial amount of value offered for free. And just one stat that highlights that is when you think about the applets that are actually enabled, you know, and an applet being enabled is really kind of the fundamental unit of value that users get from using IFT. For every one applet that users create from scratch, if this and that, and those are the types of applets that we're limiting with the introduction of the Pro plan, there are 5 applets that are enabled from a published applet. So, you know, from a 5-to-1 ratio, they're the vast majority of applets that are being enabled, and thus value being created for individual users is still free. And so that was one of those stats that really led us to believe that it would be okay to begin to charge for this thing that we also wanted to invest in, to add more features, to give more tools and more power to the folks that were still looking to create their own custom applets. So Swarnam developer, pardon me. It's funny that you have a last name developer. Hey, Linden, you wanted to know, you wanted to add a query or filter that if your phone's battery is 100%, then make a webhooks request. So I think the real challenge there is the first part about access to your battery percentage. We have some level of access to that on Android. So you can get, and I believe it's more of a like low battery trigger than it is a certain percentage threshold. But the real blocker there is access to that battery percentage on your phone platform of choice, iOS or Android or something else. And my understanding on iOS is as a mobile app on the phone, you can't just get the battery percentage anytime you want to. And it's one of the things that iOS, I think, kind of guards, and keeps from the developers for privacy. And I'm sure there's some other reason for it. And even on the Android side, I believe you can probably get the actual percentage, but you're only able to really kind of hook into alerts as that battery gets lower, not higher. Now, I could be totally wrong on that. Those platforms are both changing quite a bit. And if you know, and because your last name is developer, you might, if you know for a fact that those things have changed or that information is available, let me know. Point me to the documentation, and we'll get our team to add that as a trigger. And then I think what you're asking for should then be much easier from there because that trigger isn't available. Our team is reminding me we have about 15 minutes left. And if we don't answer any questions, if we run out of time, please ping me on Twitter. Happy to answer your questions later today. But these have been awesome questions, so thank you all. Let's see. I am Jeff Cohen, Apple iOS shortcuts follow-up. It's your understanding that as an app developer, we can build shortcuts integration. Oh, you're saying yes, we could. So that could be the case. But again, the way that IFT operates and the way that we've operated really since about 2013 is any of the services on the IFT platform are built and owned by the brands themselves. And that goes for, big brands like Google, Apple, I don't think Apple has one yet, but Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all build and own the services that you see available on the platform, with one or two exceptions. So for us, to really make shortcuts viable, we'd want to see it as something that's plugged in via their APIs and not something that has to be turned on as part of the IFT app actually being installed on the phone as well. Deepanjan is asking, can you pay for subscription via Bitcoin? We don't have that available yet. I don't think Stripe has options for any cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin. Maybe PayPal does, but I'm maybe doubtful about that, 50-50. And if there's enough critical mass of folks that want to pay via Bitcoin, we'll add that. So there's all kinds of different payment options that we'd like to add. The first one of those out of the gate is going to be both mobile app payments with iOS and Android kind of native mobile app payments, and then an annual plan where you're able to pay for something all at once up front for the year rather than every month. But Bitcoin, we've also heard a number of people ask for some kind of lifetime, pay once and get it forever. And we've seen a number of services do that and have some good examples of how that works. So those are some of the other things that are being tossed around. We want to make it easy for everybody that's willing to pay in their preferred way. So it's definitely an advantage for us to make sure we're trying to cover as many bases as possible. Alfred Deoistic, pretty good username. Maybe not as good as Tyler Durden. Not a competition. It's an amazing tool. Saved me a lot of time. Best tool for social media influencers. Okay, cool. Not a question. Thank you. I appreciate it, Alfred. Franco, yeah, thank you as well. I'm glad that was useful. CJ does have a question. Are there plans to let IFT Pro users modify their plan price, such as selecting a higher monthly or yearly price point? Yeah, so that's one of the things that we're going to need to do for folks that are looking to modify that set your own price. We want to make sure some of those options are available. I think the first thing that we probably will have available is just like a straight conversion going from the set your own price to then kind of the base pro price, or to the annual. When we introduce annual, you might say, well, shoot, I paid for 3 or 4 months of IFT Pro, set your own price monthly. I'd much rather pay annually. So you'll be able to kind of convert to the kind of standard going forward pro plan from the set your own price plan. But certainly some options to allow folks to modify that over time is something that we're looking into. So it's a good call. Manu, I hear you loud and clear. It sounds like you're still disappointed that we decided to charge for some things, and that you think you perhaps think that $4 a month is still overpriced. We'd love to change your mind, and I think maybe that even just takes time. We want to continue to both increase the quality and reliability of what we do, the responsiveness and helpfulness of our support team, the number of services available, the number of published applets, and the types of features that we're actually charging for with the Pro plan. We can't please everybody, but we're trying our damnedest to. And I think some of that plays out over time. And I've got to say, I'm just so proud of the way our team has approached Pro in a very short time period, both in the lead up to launch and after launch. They've just been working their butts off, but we still got a whole lot more work to do. So my hope is that you'll stick around and at least be able to come back and give it another shot, and hopefully we'll change your mind. Massimo, are we planning on IPOing? So we're not quite there yet. Our business itself, even though IFT has been around for almost a decade now, we've only started to charge anybody, first with the services and now with users about 2.5 years ago. So the business is growing quickly. On the services business side, that business has doubled year over year for the last 2 years. So we've seen excellent growth out of the gate. But we're still not to a point where we think that the next kind of capital raise or way to kind of fund future expansion is an IPO yet. So we'll probably still be in the private markets for that next fundraise. But that's not necessarily the goal. But if things continue to go the way they're going, that's certainly a possibility. All right, so we'll answer the last few questions here. And again, if you didn't have time or you thought of a question after we're finished, please hit me up on Twitter at @ltibbets on Twitter. So Patrick DRD, could we add debug info on activity log? Yeah, so that is one of those common feature requests, not just for like things like filter, which needs a whole lot more work just to make it clear if there's some problem with the filter code, but also just more information in the activity logs. And that's something that we're looking to follow very quickly with, so you can, get some real, both kind of human readable and also developer readable information about what's going wrong for a specific applet in the activity log. And it's also going to be one of the ways in which we help both free users and pros alike kind of self-solve some of the problems that they may run into with an applet. Just by making those activity logs a lot more verbose. We have that information. We just need to make sure it's both, secure and private. We don't want to, just be spewing information out there that we see in our kind of code logs. But once we do that, we want to make that available to everybody to help them solve some of their own problems. So you're spot on. Alfred Doistic. It could be amazing to upload the same videos I published to YouTube on my Facebook page. That's a good call. You're right. I don't think we have the ability to publish a video to a Facebook page. We should look into that. The Facebook API, both for users and pages, has changed quite a bit over the years. And frankly, both Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, a lot of those social networks over the years have really begun to kind of close off some of what people are able to do with their APIs. And largely, I think, due to either spam or other bad behavior. So I think it's become a little bit harder to do more things with those services over time because as they hit scale, they then had to deal with a lot of the problems that come with that scale. But we'll certainly look into it, see if those APIs are either new or are still available, and see what we can do. I totally hear that use case. It would be a cool one to support. So Patrick, you're interested in a lifetime payment. Have we considered a price? So what we've seen other folks do is do some, like it usually ends up being like somewhere between a 3 or 5x multiple of what the annual price is. So they kind of basically project out and say, okay, well, we can't charge you for, an infinite number of years, but somewhere between 3 and 5 years of what the annual price is for a lifetime option. At least that's what we've seen other companies do. And for us to kind of fully understand that, it does take a little bit of time. We need to understand things like, how many people are signing up, how long are they sticking around, and we'll be able to then, have a sense of what the average lifetime relationship is with a Pro subscriber. And that then gives us a sense of what that multiple should be to allow people to pay kind of one time and then be done with paying forever. So it is something we'd like to support. It's probably third or fourth in line after mobile payments and annual payments. But if Patrick, if you have some great examples of other companies that have done the lifetime payment well, happy to take a look, and that'll inform our decision-making process around it. All right, that's all we've got time for. Again, if you have other questions, I'm at LTibbets on Twitter. This was an awesome session, great questions. We really sincerely appreciate all the support, all the feedback, even the negative feedback, because I think the negative feedback is often the feedback we learn the most from. So please keep it coming. We'll continue to do these Ask Me Anything sessions probably once a month going forward. But as always, we're always listening and always open, and we appreciate everybody that has used IFT and provided feedback and helped us evolve our service over the years. So to all the pros, the free users, the services, the businesses, thank you again, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.